Alright guys, it's all about the excavators today. If you've never ran one, you're in the right place, because today we're going to be walking you step by step through the basics to help you understand what it's like to be an equipment operator. And the best part is there's going to be a lot of experienced equipment operators watching this video. So if you're brand new, make sure you read in the comments down below, because these guys are a wealth of information. And a big thanks goes out to Volvo, because if it wasn't for them, this video wouldn't be possible. And they sponsored the entire thing to make sure that you guys, when you're getting started, had good information. So what are we waiting for? Let's go run some excavators. Okay, so now we've covered the main components of the machine, right, Danny? Is there anything we missed with that?
I think it's pretty much the main components.
So we know what you're getting into, but before you fire it up, what's the basics we should be doing?
Okay, things that you want to do is check all your fluids before you start your work day. That's the main thing you want to do. The other thing is a lot of guys want to grease their machines each day before they start the operation.
So before we get into all of the grease zerks, because on an excavator we probably have about 20 different grease zerks, and there's, instead of showing you every grease zerk, because every machine's going to be similar but different, what I want you to do is I want you to get into a mind frame of where's a pivot point on a machine. It doesn't make a difference. Now this rule is going to work for whether you're running an excavator, a dozer, a skid loader, pretty much anything.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Tell us about, when we talk about a pivot point, Danny, what am I actually talking about?
So you want to look at like a pin, okay? You have pins here. So on this one, just looking at this is 1, 2, 3, 4 pins. So those are pivot points. Typically there's a zert, a grease zert at each one of those pivot points. So if you look at your excavator, wherever there's a pivot point, typically there's going to be a grease zert.
How much grease should a grease zerk take before a grease zerk has too much grease?
So basically, Stan, you want to put your grease gun on the grease zert, start pumping, and look at the joint. You can see this joint, this zert is going to be this joint here. And when you start seeing grease protrude, that means you've got enough grease in it.
But now there's one grease zerk, at least on my machine, you don't grease.
Right.
Unless, and you know what I'm talking about,
Yep.
Danny? All right.
The ring gear.
The ring gear. You're gonna think you want to grease that, but
you can over grease it.
You can
Yep.
it's one of the few that you can over grease. Let's go look at that real quick.
So it's here, this one here, and it has a sticker on it. You can see it is every 250 hours. So this is your ring gear for when you spin, okay, on your table. So if you over grease that, it will actually push the seals out of it and cause more damage to your excavator. So that's every 250 hours. Typically the buckets, hinge points, they like to do it daily. Most guys do it every other day, something like that. There is a recommended chart for that. So this is the racetrack. So you have a 50, a 250, 500, 1,000, and if you go around, you can see what you're supposed to do at those hours.
So now you may be wondering, why are we not actually running the piece of equipment on the job? But everything that I'm showing you now and coming up in the next few minutes is signs of a good operator. This is what's going to impress a company if you go to work for one, and if you go to buy a piece of equipment, the little things that you're going to see next are going to keep it running long term. So make sure you pay attention to this stuff. It may not be the most exciting, but I think it's some of the most important. Show us, where do we check the different fluids and what they are.
So think about your machine.
Okay, he just said something that was pretty critical. Think about your machine.
So when you starting up in it, you can check stuff like your windshield washer fluid. That's visual. As you can see, you're going to enter the engine compartment where you can pull the dipstick to check your oil. But while you're going, we try to put stuff like that where you can see it as you're going.
Also check your air filter. We're right here.
Typically on a Volvo, the way we do our air filters, you never open up the air filter. Okay. We have it to where the computer, when it starts getting so much restriction, it will tell you at that time the air filter needs to be serviced.
So I'm going into a lot of detail in this section of the video because I want you to be more than just a lever puller. In fact, thanks to Xbox and PlayStation, the younger generation is coming into the construction scene with eye-hand coordination, giving them an edge when they first plop their butt into the piece of equipment. In fact, what I've noticed and experienced by hiring some of the younger guys, that they catch on much faster than I would have ever given them credit for. But the problem is, that doesn't make them a good equipment operator. The first time a piece of equipment goes down or makes an odd noise, they kind of look at you like a deer caught in headlights. They have no clue what's going on. And knowing your piece of equipment inside and out is a true sign of a good operator.
The reason we do that is so it doesn't contaminate the machine more, opening it up and checking it every day.
That's because it's a new machine. You guys may be buying a used machine. You may be buying something completely different. You've got to check this because you're working in dusty, dirty conditions. Now, I will say you got to check it at least once a week. Now, this machine monitors it continually, but if you were working in very dusty conditions, you check it every single day. If you're demolishing a building and the dust from the building is coming down, that's the way your machine is breathing, and that's the way that you can quickly destroy a turbo.
Right.
You can destroy an engine if it gets even worse than that, because you're doing too much restriction. You're making the machine work harder. Check it every day if you're in dry, dusty, dirty conditions.
The other thing, if you're working in demolition, like you have a cabin air filter, which is here on the back of the cab. So that's something else. You want to be as operator breathing that clean air as well.
Okay, Danny, what are we looking at, bud?
Okay, so on our machines, it has a clear reservoir for the coolant, which is in the engine compartment. So you can visually look at it, see if the levels are correct. It has indications on the side of the tank. You can pull the dipstick, which is down here. Check your oil level each day. Now on our excavators too, we do have sensors on the engine, so it will tell you if the oil is low, but we recommend still getting a visual on the oil level. Okay.
We also talked about dusty, dirty conditions. Our radiator, well, with you guys, is right here. I like this. Because you want to check to see if your radiator is collecting dirt, because it will.
It will.
It will collect dirt, so you got to blow it out and clean it, right?
Yep. And typically on some of our excavators now, we offer a hydraulic reversible fan. So after it runs for so long, it'll reverse for like 15 to 30, whatever you set it that time, it'll reverse and clean the dust and debris out.
Okay, so basically what he's meaning is it's continually sucking air into the engine, then occasionally it'll blow it back, revert back out.
Correct. Yep. On your turntable, there is an oil level you want to check. Typically the guys don't check it every day, but they do pull it probably once a week, just so you know your machine. That's the key. Know your machine, know your fluids. We recommend with the fuel is after you get finished at the end of the day, fill the fuel at that time, because you want your tank topped off. That way you don't have condensation in the fuel. Okay? So do it at the end of the day. Hydraulic is here, but the sight glass is on the ground.
So that's sealed. Because you shouldn't have to add it unless you have a ruptured hose.
Unless a leak or something like that.
Right.
Correct.
How often do you change hydraulic oil, Danny?
It's on the racetrack.
Okay.
Typically, I think it's around 2,000 hours.
Okay. Typically. The reason I asked you that question, even though we know it's on the racetrack and it's going to be different for every machine, it's not like engine oil.
Yeah.
It's completely different,
exactly.
But this one doesn't require the same level of maintenance as the engine oil.
Correct.
What else should we know about right in here, Danny? Because I see a lot of, to me, vital components, but to these guys, it may be all foreign material.
Right, so this is typically your pump compartment. So you have a number of things going on in here. When you're doing your walk around, you have the water separator, which is this filter here. If there's any water in it, you can actually see it. You can see the color of the diesel fuel is kind of an orange color. If it's water, you can see in the bottom. And at that time, you can actually drain the water off this filter as you do your walk around.
Okay, so one of the things I want to point out is, guys, make sure that you check all of these things, because all machines will have this. They may not have them grouped as nicely as this. In fact, this is the nicest grouping I've ever seen. I'll be totally honest with you. Having everything right here is pretty awesome. On my other machines, I've had to actually dig down and around and hang upside down and try to get at them. Not fun.
It's not fun.
Doesn't make servicing and maintaining it very easy. So this is pretty nice. But you guys, you've got to do this. You've got to be aware of all these things. Another thing, you've got all the hours written on every single filter.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
So not just, it's the date, as well as the hours, because a lot of times you want to judge how long the oil's been in there, even if the machine's been sitting, and also how many hours is on it. You may have changed it a month before, but you may have also put 500 hours on within that time.
You mentioned 500 hours, so that's typically when you'll want to change your filters and stuff like that, your oil. It's 500 hours.
So now you said something that I want to make sure we talk about: 3 points of contact.
Yes, sir.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Let's show us what that means.
Basically, you would want to have 2 hands on and 1 foot on. That's your 3 points.
So you can't swing like a monkey from the monkey bars, Danny?
You can, but you shouldn't.
Okay.
It's not safe.
Guys, that may sound like kids play, but after years and years of running on construction sites, one of the things that happens is the bottom of your boots get muddy, they get slippery, and they slide. I can't tell you how many times that I've gone up here and went like this and had my foot slide off, and guess what? That hurts your shins, because that's the next point of contact. When it's not the bottom of your foot, it's your shin. But when you're holding on twice, when your foot slips, you can grab hold. 3 points of contact, keep your shins in shape. That's a Dirt Monkey hot tip for you. All right, guys, before you actually start operating too, you need to actually keep yourself safe by grabbing some of the right gear.
Well, you have to be aware of the job site wherever you're working at. You may want to have steel-toed boots like what Stan has on. You may have to have a safety vest, okay? You may be required to wear a helmet.
Safety glasses as well. Realistically, for you guys inside the machine, it's not as important as for what I call them the ground pounders. That's the guys that are operating outside the machine.
Exactly.
This stuff just lets people know where you're at. So whether you're going with, we're not trying to be OSHA compliant here. We want you guys to do your own research. But whether you're going with bright green or you're going with orange, it doesn't make a difference. You want to know where people are at, plain and simple. Now this is hard hats coming like a whole I got one that's a cowboy hard hat. I mean, they can look like just about anything.
And still be approved. Yeah.
Just still be approved, stick it on your head, be that much safer. Just be smart, guys. Just be smart. Yeehaw! See, I wasn't lying. One of the things that I want to talk about real quick is traveling across the site. Now you wouldn't think, oh, there's actually any common sense that goes along with it, but nothing could be farther from the truth when you're working in a machine that has a big, giant stick in the air. I seen a guy that was traveling across the site with his boom up in the air. He snagged a power line, it destroyed his machine, and he nearly lost his life. I think I'm gonna wear this more often. Dan the man's got the plan for traveling across the site.
So typically what you'd want to do is just be aware of your surroundings, okay? Like what Stan was saying, you want to watch for any power lines that's going over, phone lines, cables, anything like that. You want to be aware of stuff that's in the ground, like if it's a work site around a housing development or something. There's septic tanks. There's all kinds of underground stuff that you can damage with a heavy machine. So you really need to track out the way you're going to go with the machine to not damage any of those. Okay. Right. Typically, when you're traveling, you want to keep your like you can see the boom. I have it kind of tucked down with the bucket and everything up close, and everything's low.
Okay, so right now he's in standard operation mode. Put it in traveling mode, Dan the man. So you can see him bring everything down. Now he's ready to go.
Another thing that really helps, if you have a machine that has the camera, okay, you have the side camera and then the rear camera. So I can see to my left, I can see out front, and then I can see to the right with this camera here. It's a split screen, and I can see behind me. So I'm aware of if there's any operators or any machines approaching me, I'm going to be aware of it because I can see 360 around this machine.
Okay, so what Dan's talking about is in this very particular Volvo, which is a newer machine, well, it's brand new, it's equipped with cameras that allow you to see everything around you. Now, you may not have the opportunity as a new operator to go hop your butt into a $100, $200, $300,000 piece of equipment. And so you may get stuck in the old rusty piece of junk. Well, that's what I grew up running, and trust me, there's no flipping cameras in those. So operator awareness is a key factor to keeping yourself healthy and successful long term, but more importantly, not hurting anybody around you. Dang, I look good in this. Alright guys, we're gonna show you how to turn an excavator into a 30-foot level. So what Danny's got going on right now is he's got his bucket set to where he wants the ground level to be. And what he's gonna do is he's gonna simply take this all the way around. Go ahead, Danny. As we follow the bucket around, you'll see that he's not changing the height of the bucket, it's the ground that's changing height. So right here, you can see he's starting to hit the ground. That's telling him as the operator that his grade is starting to go up. Now if the ground started to disappear underneath it, that means that the grade is going down.
After you get your machine level, the grade that you want to keep, and then you work from that level with your bucket, what I'm doing.
So as a rule of thumb, an excavator is actually meant to dig forward to backward, and it's not meant to grade dirt side to side. But it's okay to level out a spot so that you can create a flat point for your excavator to sit on, so that as you're digging the dirt forward to backward, you're not at an angle. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so there's a number of different configurations that excavators typically come in. You've got a conventional tail swing model, and you have a zero tail swing model, and Dan's gonna walk us through that right now.
This is a conventional, so basically you've got the counterweight extended, so when we turn it sideways, the counterweight is gonna overhang the track.
On a zero tail swing model, that does not happen because it's designed so that guys aren't rubbing their butts up against banks or in trees or buildings or obstructions, because you'll see it. So you can see right there. Now, he's kind of blind. Now you got a camera in your cab, but if you didn't have a camera in your cab, when you guys are looking and you see excavators and they look like somebody's been rubbing them, this is why. So how about the front, Dan? What do you want to show me about the front as we turn?
Well, the front is going to go over your tracks as well, so you have to see the corner of the cab, how far it protrudes over.
Yeah.
Over the track right where it is now. So you have to be aware of that too, not only your tail but the front.
So it's easier to know where your front is because of spatial awareness than the back. So exactly. A lot of times you'll see the back speed up and the front's perfectly fine. Guys, you gotta look behind you sometimes too.
If you have the cameras where you have the split screen, we can see out the left side, we can see out the front. As you can see in this picture here, we can see out the right side and the rear. So we can see 360 degrees around the excavator. Perfect. But the excavator has to have that option. I know all excavators don't, but realize that you have mirrors. There's mirrors that you can set on all excavators to where you can see around you.
So obstacles are one thing to be aware of, but there's something called knowing where your team is at as well.
Exactly.
These guys, half the time they assume that you see them. Exactly. That's why we recommend wearing bright green, but that does not keep you safe.
Exactly.
All right, it's story time, guys, and here's a true one for you. I actually had a ground pounder that decided it was safe to stand between the tracks of my excavator as I was running it. Now, I had been turned sideways while I was digging it, and if I hadn't caught him slide in between the tracks of my excavator, as I would have turned the excavator, he would have been sliced in half. Common sense isn't so common. And so for some of you experienced operators, put in the comments down below some of the crazy stuff that ground pounders have done that you've seen. And if you are starting to get your butt into the seat of a piece of equipment, with great power comes great responsibility. And these machines got a lot of power. What keeps you safe is making eye contact before approaching a machine.
You want to make eye contact with that operator when you're walking up to him. That way he knows you're entering his zone.
Guys, if you're on the ground like I am right now, do you see what Dan did? He flipped the switch down while I was talking to him.
Yep. You have a person that's in the trench that you're working to, talking out the front to, that can mean the difference between life or death with someone in a trench.
In the trench.
Yes, so you want to make sure that if anybody's around your attachment, this is down.
Because if that bucket moves even a foot,
exactly.
That's literally, guys, that's all it takes. And I mean, one slight bump. Let me climb up here.
So I'm going to go to the right stand. So that's just bumping, and you can see if we measure that, that's probably over a foot.
And that's on idle. So if you idle this up, so if you have it in operating mode like you're working and you bump it, it responds fast.
Yeah.
A couple things to keep you safe, keep you working into your old age, so you can be gray like Dan and I. How about, what do we got right here?
Basically light controls. Yep. And then on this side, our excavators are set up.
Did you say light?
Lights. Yeah.
Light.
Work lights.
Light.
Light control.
That's what it is. That's the lights,
yeah.
right? Yeah, I gotta give Dan the man some credit. So.
Ours is set up to where you have a small console that controls like your camera, your temperature control in the cab, and also your light package. Okay, so you may have different lights on the boom, on the machine itself, on the cab, on the rear, on the side, different work lights. So they're set up different in different machines. You have wiper controls, radio, Bluetooth is everything here. Your actual radio is actually behind you, but the controls are here on the side where you can control the radio and Bluetooth control.
What do we got over here?
Okay, so we have, this is actually to confirm bucket release. You actually have the bucket releases on the right side where you push this. When you push it, it unlocks.
Bucket release is what?
Okay, if you want to change, if you have an attachment bracket on it where you want to change the attachment, you can basically change it hydraulically, okay, without having to get out and take pins out, okay? But this is to confirm after it's done.
Alright, Dan, let's show these guys from inside here what it looks like when we bring that bucket right up to the cab. Because it can happen in a blink of an eye. So, I mean, you can be talking to somebody or looking at something else, you're looking out that way and you're automatically bringing it in.
So it looks like this stand, okay? Now, with this configuration of arm, it will not hit the cab, okay? So if you look, I can do the bucket up and down, and it will not hit the cab.
But if you have a thumb on and you got debris or you got a full bucket load of dirt, that part will hit the cab.
It will.
Yes.
Or if you have an extended arm on it, it will actually, the bucket will hit the cab.
Come right into the cab. Yes, yeah. I've had guys rake the cab. Experienced operators that they're not paying attention, they've raked the cab. Alright guys, well I hope this video's helped you out. If it has, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment down below, and if you want to see another training video, maybe on a skid loader or a bulldozer or something, let me know and I'll start to try to work on putting one of those together. Now this video is not meant to be total training by any means. Hopefully it's just enough that before you go crawl your butt into the seat of an excavator, you get a general idea of how to check the fluids, the good, the bad, the in-between, all of the little things that will help keep you safe. And starting a successful career in operating. I can speak big words. All right, God bless you guys. Go get them.